Well, hello, people. Welcome back to 90 and Out. I'm Timothy Holt, your host, and this video is part of an ongoing series called The Words in Red When Jesus Speaks, where we look at the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth as recorded by the four biographers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This particular episode, we're going to be looking at John chapter 1, starting in the 43rd verse, concerning two of his disciples, Philip and Nathanael. So, without further ado, don't take my word for any of the text. Read it for yourself, and let's cue the music. All right, so let's go ahead, turn towards to John's account and the biography of Jesus of Nazareth, also known as the Gospel according to John. And, well, let's find out the words in red when Jesus speaks. The following day, Jesus wanted to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. And Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him, of whom Moses and the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." And Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him and said to him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." And Nathanael answered and said to him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." And Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree? Do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Most assuredly I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Woo! What excitement, right? Let the words come alive. All right, let's get right into it. There is this discourse here that plays on unknowns for us. We are approximately 2,000 years removed from this encounter. Yet, it still reads with such vibrancy and life that it's hard not to picture what's going on here, right? If you've seen the TV series, The Chosen, they show this in kind of a weird way. They basically show Nathanael as a drunk, a failed architect, engineer drunk. There's no indication here whatsoever of that. That's one reason why I don't support The Chosen, is because I think they take way too many creative liberties instead of just adapting the text. Because here we see Philip finding Nathanael, and Nathanael is studying under a fig tree. I say studying because if you're familiar with first century rabbinic practices, it was common for rabbis, when they would have a copy of the Torah, a scroll, they would gather their students early in the morning, and they would go sit under a fig tree and study for memorization and comprehension. Fig trees are shade trees in the Middle East. Israel is a arid climate, and where we're talking about here, around Capernaum, Galilee, Nazareth, the Galilean countryside. It's a rocky, desert, arid place. So fig trees provided much needed shade and respites from the heat. But here we see a rabbi, Jesus, telling Nathanael, I saw you under the fig tree. Now, he could have seen Nathanael literally under a fig tree, but he could also be using that turn of phrase, that figure of speech, referring to rabbis and their students deep in study and memorization and comprehension of the Torah, the law, and the prophets. Collectively, this is known as the Tanakh. The ketamine, I have a hard time pronouncing that, but it's the law, which is the Torah, the prophets, and the poetry. Combined, they create the Tanakh, or what we call the Old Testament. And Jesus references here in verse 51 the stairway to heaven, the heavens opened up, and angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Well, if you flip way back here to Genesis, specifically 28, you're going to read an account of one of the patriarchs. You have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob is the grandson of Abraham. And Jesus is referencing the angels ascending and descending, but he greets Nathanael with a very interesting greeting. Think about it like this. Let's say I have two friends who have never met, and I'm introducing them. So I go and get friend A. I go and get one friend, and I say, hey, come meet my other friend. Okay, so now my two friends meet for the very first time, and the one goes, hey, you are a true, honest American hero at heart. Well, you would be rightfully justified in going, wait, what? Huh? Whoa, back up. You don't know me. How do you know if I'm a true American at heart, right? Well, it's the same thing here. Jesus greets him with a pretty odd greeting, right? There is an Israelite, not a Galilean. Keep in mind, Nathanael is from Cana in Galilee. Jesus is called the Jesus of Nazareth. We have Philip and Andrew and Peter, Simon Peter, from Bethsaida. You'll see a theme here, right? But he doesn't say you are a Galilean or from Cana. He says an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. So Israel means God preserves, and Jacob means one who deceives, or the deceiver. And if you go to Genesis 28, you'll read how Jacob is fleeing from Esau after deceiving their dad for a blessing. He is on the run. And starting in the 10th verse, now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head. And he lay down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your descendants. Now, if you keep reading, God reiterates the Abrahamic covenant with Jacob. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." And that place is called Bethuel. Now after this, Jacob's name gets changed to Israel. Jacob goes from being the deceiver to the one Jehovah preserves. Israel, which means preserved by God, or God preserves. So it's fascinating. It's possible that Nathan was reading in the Torah under the fig tree in the cool of the day. And he's contemplating this exchange, this event that happens with Jacob back in Genesis. 15 to 1800 years earlier, and he sees a stairway, a ladder, and angels ascending and descending. That's pretty fascinating, because he goes, "Because I called you an Israelite, because I saw you in the sitting in the fig tree, under the fig tree? Really? Well, you're going to see what Jacob saw." He says, "Nathaniel, since you believed, you're going to see what Jacob saw. You're going to see the angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man," which is Jesus's pet name for himself. And who are the angels ascending and descending in Jacob's vision? It's God. Jesus is telling Nathaniel, "I'm God." Not just the King of Israel, right? Not just the Messiah for the Jews, but the Messiah for all mankind. It's a claim to deity. So now, this is purely speculative that that's actually what is occurring, because this is all the text we get. But we do know from rabbinic literature, from rabbinic history outside the Bible, that it was common for rabbis to do that. It was so common that it became a turn of phrase, figurative speech. If you said, "Hey, that guy was sitting under the fig tree," people took that to mean he was studying the Torah. He was deep in study. Now, it could be that Jesus literally saw him when no one else did. That's also a claim to deity, being omniscient, all-knowing. Who can see you when no one is around? It's God. Who knows your very heart? It's God. And Jesus starts out right here saying, "Nathaniel, that's me." Keep in mind, Jesus finds Philip, and Philip goes and finds Nathaniel. Jesus goes to Philip and says, "Follow me." By the way, these individuals were disciples of John the Baptist. They were already seeking. They were already looking for the Messiah. They were already looking for the one who will come after John. Because John said, "The one who comes after me, I am not able to tie the shoelace for. He is so much greater than me." And right before this, John the Baptist tells these disciples, his disciples, "See that guy? That Jesus of Nazareth? That's the guy I've been telling you about. Go follow him." And then we see how they go and do that. Now, there is some debate on whether or not Nathanael is Bartholomew. Because in the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there is no Nathanael. He doesn't show up. But Bartholomew does. In John, Bartholomew's nowhere to be found, but there's Nathanael. And they have very similar characteristics, and they are associated with the same people. The other thing about that is, Nathanael is a first name. It's a given name, where Bartholomew is a surname. When you see bar in front of a Hebrew name, it meant son of. So in the same way, we have last names like Johnson or Anderson, right? They had Bar Jonah, son of Jonah. Barabbas, son of the teacher or rabbi. You also have here Bartholomew, which is translated son of the furrows, meaning farmer. And where's Cana? Cana is in the farming district of Galilee. It's the farm country. It's the wilderness. It's out there in Timbuktu. It's not near a fishing village, right? There's no water around. It's all farmland, and not very good farmland. It's grazing land, to be more precise. So it's possible that Bartholomew and Nathanael are one and the same person. Now, why would Matthew, Mark, and Luke use Bartholomew and not Nathanael? Well, probably for the same reason that there are people who call me Holt instead of Timothy. Right? We see that commonly, right? Where you'll refer to somebody by their last name instead of their first name as just a common thing. We give nicknames to people all the time. But also it could be because Matthew, Mark, and Luke are being written during persecution. Close to Jerusalem, close to where these events took place, not just in time, but also geography. So there is a need for a certain ambiguity or anonymity to protect those people involved. You got to keep in mind, these biographies end with a pretty amazing event, and it's the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. It would have been a hotbed. It would have been very problematic to be associated with that group at this time that the texts are being written. John traditionally is recorded much later, 20, 30, even 40 years later, when that heat would not have been as hot. It would have been easier for John to use first names and be more specific, because the individuals he's writing about and the events would have been farther in the past, so they would not have needed the ambiguity, the anonymity, if you will. Okay? But in either case, it doesn't really matter whether we use his surname or his given name. Right? I think there's good reason to believe they're the same guy. What fascinates me is how Jesus presents himself to Nathanael. We're going to conclude this video on this note. You see, Jesus doesn't go to Nathanael and present himself as this guru, religious guru. He doesn't present himself as a strong, mighty warrior and rebel. He plays on the honesty and the banter that goes between them without them meeting. What, can anything good come from Nazareth? Come out of Nazareth? Like that? You mean to tell me that the Messiah came from that dump? That hole in the ground over there? That would be similar to us today going, Can anything good come out of a trailer park? I mean, what? You mean to tell me the next president of the United States came out of that trailer park down the street? It's that kind of honesty, though. Yeah, there's some little prejudicial element here, but let's face it, these individuals don't live in a vacuum. They didn't just show up when we start reading about them. The other thing has to do with their age. Jesus is approximately 30 years old, and it was customary for rabbis to take on students, disciples who were younger than they were, usually considerably younger. So Jewish boys would finish their primary education at 16 years of age, usually at 15 or 16 years of age. At that point in time, they would either go work in their father's industry. So if your dad was a farmer, you became a farmer. If your dad was a fisherman, you became a fisherman. There was definitely a caste system in place. However, if you were at the top of your class, you would go find a rabbi and you would become their disciple. And ultimately becoming a rabbi yourself. But Jesus kind of flips the script when he goes and calls disciples. That was unusual. Usually the disciples sought out the rabbis, not the rabbis seeking out disciples. So it is possible that Philip and Nathaniel are in their late teens. I've seen some theories that they were as young as 14. I don't think that is likely. I think they were out of primary school because they're already a traveling disciple. Philip's a disciple of John the Baptist. John the Baptist is not teaching in a synagogue. He's not teaching in a school. He's teaching out in the middle of nowhere. Parents would not have been okay with that. And I don't think there would be a lot of parents okay with that kind of thing today. Hey, go travel with this teacher and we're not around. Yeah. Don't think that's gonna fly. Right? But older teenagers, 16 to 19 years of age, that's not uncommon. We send 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds and 19-year-olds to college all the time. When I was 17, I joined the Army and I also went to college. I didn't live at home with my parents anymore. I was an adult. So I think it's reasonable that they were in their upper teens. And the reason I say that is because later, when we see the temple tax, it was on adults of 20 age or older, males of 20 age and older, and Peter and Jesus pay it. The other disciples aren't recorded paying it. So I think they were probably late teenagers. And that kind of makes sense even in our today's culture where we see students go to college as freshmen and they latch on to certain professors for whatever reason. So, who are you learning from? As we close this video out, what is there to learn from this exchange? First thing is we have to ask ourselves if it is credible. And I think there is sufficient evidence to say yes, it's credible. 2, if Jesus really is who he claims he is, then what do you do with him? Remember, if you've seen other videos in this series, we ask ourselves, is he a liar, a lunatic, or Lord? C.S. Lewis is the one who coined that, but he was not the first one to propose that trilemma. That trilemma goes way back to the early church fathers. Is he a liar? A liar is someone who knows what they're saying is false, but say it anyway. Is he a lunatic? Meaning what he says is false, but he believes it to be true. Or is he exactly who he claims to be? Who can see you when no one else is around? You see, we are not the main focus of any of this text. It's called history, his story. Study it well, and hopefully it will change your life. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was beneficial for you. I hope you got something out of it. As we continue this series, we're going to be diving into a lot of Jesus' teaching, Jesus of Nazareth, and his teaching that's recorded by the biographers. Very excited about this series, and I hope you are too. If you found this video beneficial in any way, please, by all means, leave comments in the comment section. Keep them respectful. And do all the social media stuff. That will help this channel grow and reach out to more people. If you did not find this video to be beneficial and you're still watching or listening, wow, I am impressed, like legit impressed. Because typically if I'm doing watching a video or listening and I don't find it beneficial, I'm not going to watch it all the way through. So if that is the case, thank you very much, and I'm impressed. Also, leave a comment down below. Leave a comment in the comment section on why you didn't find it beneficial and why you kept watching. I would love to hear from you. But I'm going to leave you with this. May God bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace.